Hey everyone, John here from Big Dreams Travel TV, and today we're going to tell you everything we know and what we don't know about the impending reopening of Disney World after the COVID-19 closure. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We love to make travel-related content for you and would love to make more, so make sure you like the video and subscribe down below if you like all of that travel-related content. Today, let's discuss some of the things that we know, as well as some of the things we don't yet know about the reopening process for Walt Disney World after this COVID-19 closure. As I go through this video, know that I'm only including things that have been confirmed by the Walt Disney Company. There's a lot of rumors out there, and we're not going to include any of those things because we don't know whether they will come true or not. This is just a factual video that includes only things we know from Disney. First, Disney CEO, the new Disney CEO of a couple months ago, Bob Chapek, reiterated on an interview on CNBC on May 11th that an exact opening date is still not yet known for the Florida parks. He says that Disney is still working very closely with the government at the state level and the local level there in Florida to make that decision. You know, it's no secret Disney is a huge part of the Florida economy and of just Florida in general. And so they're going to work closely with the governor to back up his phased reopening plan for the state, as well as get Disney open in the safest way possible. The second thing we know also came from Chapek's interview, and it was just a short quote, but Chapek said, "We're very encouraged by what we see in Shanghai." You see, the day of his interview yesterday, May 11th, was the first day that Shanghai Disneyland Park was reopened after their closure. And we're going to touch on some of the modifications they've made in Shanghai later in this video. The third thing we know is that we know that on May the 20th, Disney Springs will be the first part of Disney World to open. This was long rumored, and now Disney has confirmed this. They've also confirmed at this point it's going to start out as just third-party vendors. So you're not going to be able to go to World of Disney or a Goofy's Candy Company or the Christmas store on opening day there on May 20th. But we'll see how long it takes after that date for Disney to open some of their own stores. They have scheduled maintenance and custodial and security workers for Disney Springs. That's obviously not a surprise, but important to point out that some of Disney's cast members are now going back to work, which is a good sign for the opening of other parts of Disney World. The next very important thing to point out, Disney announced just a few days ago that they are not accepting any new reservations for dining or resorts until July 1st of 2020. For a couple of months, that date had been June 1st, so they have pushed that back. Now, Disney, this does not mean they're not opening at all in June. It just means they're not taking new reservations for June. If they stay closed into June, they're going to continue what they've done for the last couple of months and just cancel reservations week by week by week as the parks are going to stay closed. This new policy of not taking reservations until July 1st, we are all hoping it's just their attempt to curb how many people are coming to the parks. In Shanghai, they are doing that, and we assume they will do that in the Florida parks to control attendance. And so they're not canceling June reservations yet. They are just saying they're not taking new ones, possibly in an effort to control how many people are there. But again, the fact is no new reservations until July 1st of 2020. We'll update that announcement if it changes. The next thing that Disney has posted on their website is that there will be limited capacity as the parks reopen. So they are thinking ahead and letting people know that if you come to the parks, there are going to be some limited offerings or closures based on, and Disney says this, based on what health experts and government officials say. So some attractions, experiences, or services may not be available. And we see this in Shanghai. No fireworks. They've done a very modified and scaled down parade. They do have some shows with characters, but they've got boxes on the ground for people to stand in. And you're not seeing character meet and greets like the traditional way. You're having to stay at a distance and you basically get to wave at them. And so those are some of the things that are probably going to be modified, or maybe some things not available at all. We didn't see a lot of attractions not open in Shanghai, so I think most of those they're going to try to find a way to keep open. But a lot of the extra added offerings, Disney's added that language to know that those may be closed. So something else Chapek mentioned in his interview today was that Shanghai was going to run at about 30% of park capacity, which he said is about 24,000 people. They would then increase the number of guests in the park by about 5,000 per week if things continue to go smoothly. And Chapek said a couple of interesting things that I'll quote him here. And he said, if guests continue to behave the way they have here in Shanghai, we may be able to approach that, meaning 100% capacity. He said, we're all going to do our part, and we need our guests to do their part too. So he said that opening day at Shanghai went super well, which is great news that guests followed the directions they need to. We'll obviously see if they increase attendance or the number of people that can come next week. We will see how that affects what's going on in Shanghai. So the final thing we want to talk about Disney World and what the reopening could look like are, again, some of those things we gained from what they're doing in Shanghai. You see, Shanghai's reopening appears to be a test case for Disney. As their executives talk, they seem to be thinking that they want to see what's going to work and what's not going to work before they open their other parks around the world. The following are some of the guidelines that Shanghai put in place, and although we don't think that all of these will probably come to Disney World, because Disney World is different in terms of it's got 4 theme parks as opposed to 1, so many resort hotels. It probably won't look exactly the same, but we think since a lot of these are factual things that Disney is doing at Shanghai Disneyland, we think a lot of these things will probably be the basis for what we may see at Disney World when they reopen. The first thing guests are having to do at Shanghai is before they ever go to the park, they must make an advanced reservation before the day they want to visit. So they go on the app or the website and they make a reservation for that day. If they're purchasing one-day tickets, they just buy a date-based ticket. Or if they're an annual pass holder or something like that, they have to book what day they want to go into the park. And that's how they're limiting the park to 30% or 24,000 guests, as we said earlier. The second thing is guests are required to wear a face mask for their entire visit, as are cast members that are face characters or cast members out working with guests that are not in a costume. And so we saw some reports on opening day in Shanghai where this wasn't super strictly enforced. The videos Shanghai put out didn't really mention kids. I've got a 4-year-old. I'm not sure how a mask would stay on a 4-year-old for very long, and even an 8-year-old that we have. But, they are saying guests are required to wear masks. I'm sure there will be some leniency here for younger kids and those kind of things. And we saw that, I think, on opening day in Shanghai. The other thing they're doing is when the guests get to the park, they walk through a temperature screening area that's manned by cast members. Now, they're not stopping and scanning your forehead or anything like that. You're basically walking through a tent that's like a security tent, and they've got some devices pointed at you, and it's reading people's temperature as they walk through. Reminds me of when you drive through a toll plaza and it reads your little toll sticker in your car. They're reading your temperature. And so it's appeared to be, at least in the videos of Shanghai that they released with the procedures, a pretty simple process. You walk through the tent and you go on into the park. I assume if they need to stop somebody, the cast members working there would stop somebody. Once they're in the park, guests are seeing all of the queue areas. They're marked with stickers on the ground or tape or some other type of signage to encourage social distancing, so that you're not right next to each other in line. And so if you saw the video, some of the areas on the ground have big stickers that you stand in between. Some lines just have tape marks on the barriers that keep you in the line. And they showed they would have cast members there working to control the people. We didn't see a ton of videos of cast members having to do that on opening day, but I would assume they'll have to have more at Shanghai next week again as they add more people into the park and see how things go. As far as the ride vehicles, we're seeing those ride vehicles arranged to leave empty seats in rows. For instance, again, in the video Shanghai put out, they had Pirates of the Caribbean, and they sat people in every other row. And it was typically just one party per row. And they will do things like that similar on other rides. They're obviously cleaning and sanitizing those rides in between uses. Restaurants are limiting how many tables can be used, and only certain guests can only sit at certain tables where there is room in between to maneuver and sit and eat. And then meet and greets, we've talked about a little bit earlier, but meet and greets in the traditional sense are really not happening. Guests are able to view these characters from a distance and wave at them. I think Shanghai has added maybe a couple extra little shows throughout the park where these characters put on a little show and they have boxes taped on the ground for people to stand in. And so that's one of the ways they're kind of bringing the characters back in. But that's certainly going to be one of the areas that we may see not return for a time period, are those character meet and greets because of that close interaction. So again, we're not guaranteed to see all of those things that Disney is doing in Shanghai. That's just the best test case we have to see what is Disney thinking about on all of these ideas. And so, of course, when Disney opens, we will let you know what is happening and what the plan is. But there's no doubt that what's going on in Shanghai is probably a pretty strong blueprint for what's going to be used to open other Disney parks around the world. So that's what we know so far. Once we know more, again, we'll certainly keep you guys updated. Have a great day, everyone, and keep dreaming of your future travels.